Who is the stronger giant in Fortnite? Is it Homer or is it Godzilla? Now, as you might have seen already, we've got a huge Homer character in the trailers, of course, but also the Simpson Season 2, and this could be the most random huge character I've seen. Obviously, we've had Dr. Doom, Kong, and some other big bosses, but Homer is easily the weirdest one I've seen yet. Before I get into this, I'd like to say I'm going to be gifting 1,000 V-Bucks to random subscribers every single week, so just subscribe with all notifications turned on and join my Discord in the pinned comment. We are now 4 days away from the final Chapter 6 finale live event. We've already seen a lot of leaks and teasers. I actually have my very own theory with exactly what I think is going to happen in the 0 hour live event, which is explained in the video in the top right, so if you're interested, check it out. But I want to cover a more interesting and comedic style video today, and that is obviously covering the 2 best giants in Fortnite in my opinion. No, but seriously, this is actually a really interesting question because the answer isn't as straightforward as you guys would think. So let's compare their powers, starting with Homer Simpson, because this season he accidentally dropped the 0-point shard in the nuclear power plant toxic liquid, and then he fell into it, which caused him to spawn so many different zombie looking Homers, which lie around a donut, but they are kind of found around the map in the most random locations ever. But Chief Wiggum will actually shoot them all, and that isn't the end of it, because the shard energy then goes into the sky and creates a giant Homer. With the background and context out of the way, what powers does he contain? Well, he's got a reality warping side effect, which grants him the power of creation, which comes from the 0 point. We saw this in one of the first trailers of the season, where he was going around Springfield Island using the 0-point remote, but since the part of the 0-point shard actually went inside of Homer, he can technically create or change whatever he wants without having to press a button this time. But the next power comes from the creation energy in a way, and that is conjuring. So what I mean by that is because the shard is tied to creation energy, Homer is more than just transforming, he's actually manifesting stuff too. So if you're confused, this means he's capable of creating living things. That's part of what power of creation means in Fortnite's story. For example, obviously turning Professor Frink into a peely version of him. Next up is the cloning and manipulation, because as we know, Homer ends up with hundreds of zombies fueled by this purple glow, aka the 0 point, and his eyes are green, which is a suggestion of the toxic waste from the plant. But how big actually is he? If we compare him to Godzilla, we get a rough idea. He actually looks taller than him, but that's all we get about size. His size does seem very durable because the fact that he becomes a kaiju suggests that his body can take significant physical stress. But is it actually the shard that's keeping him this way, or is it something else? Well, it's actually the shard's energy that's powering him instead. However, this also can cause a lot of risks in his abilities, because the law actually states that too much exposure to 0-point energy can lead to losing control or even worse, which also raises questions about the Dark Presence, since he's ultimately powered by a shard too, or he got his hands on one and was already powerful, but we know that he's got one too. Anyways, the cloning didn't really go too smoothly, because Homer's use of the shard created chaos in Springfield, which means he basically has no control over anything. But for now, I'm pretty sure they are all of the powers that we know Homer has. So can we compare these to Godzilla? Let's check it out. So Godzilla's raw ability allows him to reveal players nearby, which kind of acts like a detective mechanism in a way. His mighty stomp is an area effect, so when you stomp, it damages nearby players and sends them flying. Godzilla can also fire a heat ray, basically a laser beam or breath attack that shreds through both players and structures, which in my opinion is probably his strongest ability, since not only is it very destructive, but it's also very good against buildings. Godzilla's health bar is incredibly high, going up to 9,999,900 health. However, he is not invincible, because back in Chapter 6 Season 1, we were actually able to damage him, targeting weak spots for extra damage, which kind of seems to be a common theme for giants. They always have a damage weakness point, but the powers don't end there, because he also has the fragments, so when players would damage Godzilla at certain weak points, he would drop fragments, which could be picked up and consumed by players on the map, giving them 40 effective health and 3 dash charges. So far it seems like Godzilla's quite easily going to win and the obvious choice, but the answer isn't so simple, and that's because even though Godzilla is insanely durable and he generally has the stronger powers out of the two, we don't quite know how Homer would react to these strengths. Yes, Homer's powers are much more unstable and lack focus, they're a bit insane, but he still remains a high threat because if he somehow grabs onto Godzilla, he would most likely win the fight. And if Homer's 0-point creation energy reached its full potential, like it seems the Dark Presence has seemed to succeed in, I honestly don't think Godzilla would really stand much of a chance, but in most cases, yes, Godzilla would win. This was a very different type of video, so if you'd like me to do a battle between specific characters or giants, I'd love to hear your suggestions down below. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button and like the video if you got to this point of the video, but 2 videos will show up on the screen if you want to watch more content like this here on the channel.